What's up? I'm Vin, and today I want to show how to write the equation of a circle that passes through 3 points. So the first thing I'll do is plot these points and connect them with the circle. So now that we have this sketch, we could use it to come up with a strategy for finding the equation of the circle. So the first thing I'll do is look at line segment AB, and we're going to find the equation of the perpendicular bisector of line segment AB. And the reason for this is if we look over here, let's say the center of the circle is over here in this location. The perpendicular bisector of any chord of any circle has to pass through the center. So that's why we're doing this. The perpendicular bisector of line segment AB, let's say we call it line L, has to pass through the center. And if we repeat this using points B and C, if we find line segment BC over here, and we go ahead and find the equation of the perpendicular bisector of line segment BC, this is also going to pass through the center of the circle. Let's say we call this perpendicular bisector, we call this line M. So what we're essentially doing here is finding the intersection point of the two perpendicular bisectors of these two chords, and that's going to tell us where the center of the circle is. So to come up with an equation for line L, what we're going to do first is find the slope of line segment AB. And for this, we're going to use the formula for the slope between 2 points. So we're going to do the difference of the y values. We're going to do -4 minus -2, and then we're going to divide by the difference of the x values. So we're going to do 1 minus -13. And now if we work this out, -4 minus -2 becomes -2, because this is going to turn into -4 plus 2. And then we're going to divide by, we have 1 minus -13 changes to 1 plus 13, which is 14. And now if we reduce this fraction, divide the top and bottom by 2, we're going to get -1/7. So this is the slope of line segment AB, but we need to know what is the slope of the perpendicular line, line L. So what we're going to do with this information, let's say we call this the slope of line L. I'll just use a little subscript here, lowercase l. We're going to have is equal to, and we're going to take the negative reciprocal of -1/7. That tells us we need to flip this. So what I'm thinking about over here is I'm flipping this. I'm taking -1/7, and first I flip it to 7 over -1, but then I change the sign. So since we have a negative here, this is going to switch to a positive. So it'll just be 7 over 1, and 7 over 1 just simplifies to 7. Okay, so that's my thought process here as to how I know the slope of line L is going to be equal to 7. So that's going to be our slope of line L. And then the next thing we're going to find here is what is the midpoint of line segment AB. So the midpoint, we're going to take the sum of the x values. We're going to do -13 plus 1, and then we're going to divide that by 2. And we're going to do the same thing for the y values. We have -2 plus -4, and then we're dividing by 2. So if we simplify this, the midpoint of line segment AB is equal to, we have -12 divided by 2 is -6, and then we have -6 divided by 2 is -3. So here's our point, and here's our slope, and now all we have to do is use the point-slope form equation to write the equation of the line. So we're going to have y minus, and we have y minus, the y value here is -3, equals, the slope is 7, and then we have times x minus the x coordinate at the midpoint is -6. So we have x minus -6 like this. And now we could simplify this a little bit. So this part here we could just say is y plus 3 equals, and then we have 7 times x plus 6. And now from here, what I'll do is I'll just solve this for y. We're going to do -3 on both sides. And this is going to give us our equation of line L. So we could say that line L, the equation is going to be y equals 7 times x plus 6 in parentheses, and then -3. So now we repeat this process, but we're going to apply this to line segment BC. So first let's find what is the slope of line segment BC. And for this, we're going to take the difference of the y values for points B and C. So we're going to do 4 minus -4, and then we're going to divide by 5 minus 1. So we're dividing by 5 minus 1. And now we simplify this. 4 minus -4 is 8, divided by 5 minus 1 is 4, and 8 divided by 4 is equal to 2. So now we need to find what is the slope of line M. And I think I'll rename this line because I don't want to write slope like this, like M subscript M. That's going to look kind of silly. So let's go ahead and rename this line P. Okay, so we're going to find the slope of line P. And for this, we're going to take the negative reciprocal of 2. So just imagine that this says 2 over 1. And then if we flip and negate this, this is going to flip and negate to -1/2. Okay, so that's going to be the slope of, we're renaming this as line P. Once again, just so the notation looks a little bit nicer. Okay, so from here, now that we have the slope of our second perpendicular bisector here, we have to know what is the midpoint of line segment BC. So the midpoint of line segment BC, for this part here, we're just going to take the sum of the x values. So we have 1 plus 5, and we're dividing by 2. And then we have the sum of the y values, -4 plus 4, and we're dividing by 2. So this is going to simplify here too. We have the midpoint of line segment BC. 1 plus 5 is 6, divided by 2 is 3. And then notice here we get negative 4 plus 4 is 0. 0 divided by 2 is 0. So the midpoint for BC is at 3, 0. So this wasn't the best sketch in the world. It should have landed exactly on the x-axis. But once again, the sketch is just for us to come up with the strategy. So now we're going to write the equation for line P. So let's just go ahead and do that now. So we're going to use this formula again. We have y minus the y value here. So this is going to be the point that we use to write the equation of our line. So we have y minus 0 is equal to the slope, and we're using the slope of line P, which is negative 1/2. So we have negative 1/2 times x minus the x value of our midpoint is 3. So now we could simplify this a bit, and this will tell us that the equation for line P is going to be y equals, and then we have negative 1/2 times x minus 3. So here's the equation that we need. So now we could do the algebra. We're going to set these two equations equal to each other. So we have this y equals equation, and we have this y equals equation. We want to see where do these two lines intersect, and they intersect at the center of the circle. So let's go ahead and set these equations equal to each other. We have 7 times x plus 6, and then minus 3 is equal to, we have negative 1/2 times x minus 3. So what I want to do here is get rid of this negative 1/2. So I'm just going to go ahead and multiply this entire equation by 2. So we're going to have 2 times 7, that's going to give us 14, and then we have times x plus 6, and then we distribute the 2 to the negative 3, we're going to have minus 6, equals, and then on the right side of the equation, we multiply by 2, and we're going to have 2 times negative 1/2 is negative 1, and we're multiplying that by x minus 3. So now we just have to work out this algebra here. We have 14 times x is 14x, and then we have plus 14 times 6. So for this part here, 14 times 6 is going to give us 84. And then we have minus 6 here. Remember, we're not distributing the 14 to the minus 6 because that's not inside the parentheses. And now this is equal to, we have negative 1 times x is negative x. And we have negative 1 times negative 3 is positive 3. So for this part, we just have to simplify a little bit. So we could say 14x plus 84 minus 6 is 78 equals negative x plus 3. And for this, I'm just going to do minus 78 on both sides. And all in one step, we could do plus x on both sides. So now we look at what cancels here. X minus x, these two cancel, and then 78 and minus 78 cancel. And I'll write the result over here. We're going to have 15x on the left equals 3 minus 78 is negative 75. So we divide both sides by 15, and this is going to tell us here that x is equal to negative 5. But now that we have the x, we could plug back into any one of the equations to find the corresponding y value. So we're going to have y equals, and let's say I plug it into this equation. I have negative 1/2 times, and then we have negative 5 minus 3 like this. So this tells us the corresponding y value is y equals, we have negative 1/2 times negative 8, and negative half times negative 8 is positive 4. So the y value here at the center of our circle is going to be equal to 4. So now that we have the center of our circle is at the point negative 5, 4. We could use the general equation of a circle, which is x minus h squared plus y minus k squared is equal to r squared. And just know that hk represents the x and y coordinate of your center. And now we could use this equation to find the radius of our circle. And we could plug in any point we want from the beginning. And I'm going to use point C because 5 and 4 are both positive. So those are going to be easy numbers to work with compared to these numbers. And now what we're going to do is we're going to plug in, this is our x and y, and this is our h and k. So we're going to have x is 5 minus h is negative 5, and then we're squaring this, plus we have y is equal to 4, and then we're subtracting our k value is equal to 4 and squaring this, and this is equal to r squared. So this is going to give us, we're going to have 5 minus negative 5 is 10. So we have 10 squared, plus this is going to give us 0 squared is equal to r squared. But now this is going to tell us here 10 squared plus 0 squared is 100, and that's equal to r squared. So our radius, if we take the square root of both sides, is going to be equal to 10. So r is equal to 10. So now we have the center of our circle and the radius of our circle. So we could write the equation for our circle. So now our final equation here, we have x minus h, and h is equal to negative 5. So we have x minus negative 5, and this is being squared, plus, in parentheses, we have y minus k squared, so we have y minus 4 squared, is equal to the radius squared, so we have 10 squared. And now if we want to simplify this, we're going to have x minus negative 5, or x plus 5 squared, and then we have plus y minus 4 squared is equal to 10 squared, which is 100. Now, one thing we could do to be 100% safe here is we could plug in one of the remaining points into the equation to make sure that it checks out. So let's say we plug in point A. If we plugged in point A, we're going to call this now xy. we would have x plus 5 squared. So we would have negative 13 plus 5 squared like this, plus the y value here is negative 2. So we have negative 2 minus 4 squared equals 100. And let's see if this checks out. So negative 13 plus 5 is negative 8. So we have negative 8 squared plus negative 2 minus 4 is negative 6, and it's being squared, equals 100. And now here we're going to have 64 plus 36 is equal to 100. And this equation here is definitely true. So our equation does check out.